What if the place you trust to care for your child was hiding a terrifying secret? I decided to go into the story of Happy Sun Daycare, a place where something darker than anyone could have imagined lurked behind closed doors. From eerie screams in the night to children showing up with strange scratches and bites, this daycare's history is more horrifying than you think. What really happened in that gray doorroom? Stay with me as I uncover the shocking truth that no one was ever meant to know. I had been staring at my laptop screen for hours, struggling to come up with a compelling idea for the news blog I worked for. Deadlines were looming, and I needed a story that wasn't just good but gripping enough to hold readers' attention from start to finish. My editor had made it clear, something intriguing, something memorable. That's when an old, almost forgotten name surfaced in my mind: Happy Sun Daycare. It wasn't just any daycare. It was a place that had been the topic of whispers and curious glances for years. People didn't talk about it much anymore, but when they did, their voices seemed to drop a notch as if they were sharing a secret. I remembered growing up and hearing bits and pieces about it. A few of my acquaintances had gone there as children, and their stories were as varied as they were vague. Some called it just another daycare, a place of finger painting and naps. Others spoke of it with a strange unease, though they couldn't or wouldn't say why. That mystery was enough to spark my curiosity. What was it about Happy Sun Daycare that lingered in the back of people's minds, just out of reach but impossible to forget entirely? Could it have been a place of something more than just toys and tantrums? I realized I had a potential story on my hands. What if I could dig into the past and uncover the truth about this daycare? The idea excited me. If I could gather enough information, interviews, old documents, maybe even first-hand accounts, I could weave together a narrative that would captivate readers. But my reasons for pursuing this story weren't entirely professional. There was something personal about it too, something I couldn't quite explain. Perhaps it was the allure of finally solving a riddle that had floated around my childhood, unanswered. I also couldn't ignore the fact that daycares themselves often carried a certain air of vulnerability. Parents, naturally protective, always worried about leaving their children in someone else's care. Every now and then, horror stories would emerge, tragic tales of neglect or worse. Could there have been such a story hiding in Happy Sun Daycare's past? The only way to find out was to dig deeper. I decided I would start by interviewing people, employees who worked there, former attendees, and maybe even their families. I wanted as many perspectives as possible to build a complete picture, ensuring the report didn't seem too biased. I also made a promise to myself: I wouldn't reveal real names if it meant compromising someone's privacy. After all, this wasn't just about exposing secrets, it was about uncovering the truth. Little did I know that what started as a simple journalistic endeavor would soon pull me into something far darker than I could have imagined. The first person I decided to interview was a middle-aged woman who had worked at Happy Sun Daycare, specifically caring for the infants. She seemed approachable yet cautious, the kind of person who carried years of experience but perhaps also a few secrets. For privacy, I decided to call her Margaret. As we sat down to talk, I opened my notebook and asked her the question that had been on my mind since I started this story. What was it like working at Happy Sun Daycare? Margaret gave me a polite smile and shrugged. It wasn't anything spectacular, she said, her tone casual. Just your typical day of working with children, or, in my case, babies. They could be fussy sometimes, but nothing out of the ordinary. I nodded, jotting down her response. But I needed to push further. Something told me there was more to her story than just typical daycare routines. Did you ever face any problems while working there? I asked. For a moment, Margaret hesitated, her smile fading as she seemed to weigh her words. With the babies? No, not really, she finally replied. They were easy to handle compared to the older kids. The children, though. She trailed off, her expression shifting ever so slightly, as if she had unintentionally opened a door she didn't want to walk through. That caught my attention. The children? I pressed gently. Were they difficult to manage? Margaret paused again, her fingers fidgeting with the edge of her cardigan. There were times, she said, her voice quieter now, when I heard noises. Screams, muffled at first. At first, I thought it was just kids pretending to be scared, playing some sort of game. But then, she stopped, as though the memory itself was unsettling. But then, I urged, my curiosity piqued. The screams started to feel real, she admitted. Like something was terrifying them. Or hurting them. Her eyes darted away as if saying the words aloud made them more tangible, more threatening. I leaned forward, my pen ready. Did you ever see any of the children get hurt? Scrapes and bruises, sure, Margaret said quickly, as though trying to dismiss the thought. Kids fall. They bump their heads. That's normal. But her voice faltered. Some injuries seemed different. I'd see kids with scratches or marks, deep ones. Sometimes even bites. And I couldn't understand how they got them. Her words sent a shiver down my spine. I wanted to believe it was all just playground accidents, but her tone and the look in her eyes told me there was more to the story. Something darker was hiding behind the walls of Happy Sun Daycare, and I was determined to uncover it. The first person I chose to interview had left me with more questions than answers. Determined to learn more, I decided my next interview should be with someone who had attended Happy Sun Daycare as a child. Perhaps they could provide a perspective that would shed light on Margaret's unsettling revelations. After digging through some records, I managed to track down a young man named Scott, who had gone to the daycare when he was about 5 or 6 years old. Scott worked at a local butcher shop, and I had to wait until his shift was over to speak with him. The wait wasn't too long, but it gave me plenty of time to prepare my questions. I wanted to be careful not to alarm him or influence his recollections. When Scott finally joined me outside the shop, he seemed polite but a little hesitant, as if he wasn't sure why I wanted to talk about something that had happened so long ago. Do you remember much about your time at Happy Sun Daycare? I asked him, keeping my tone casual. I know it's been years, but anything you can recall would help. Scott thought for a moment, his brow furrowing slightly. Not a lot, he admitted. I was pretty young. I remember the usual stuff kids did, playing outside, finger painting, watching cartoons. It was nothing out of the ordinary. I nodded, scribbling his words down in my notebook. Were you a well-behaved kid back then? He chuckled lightly. For the most part. I mean, I wasn't perfect. I'd get into little trouble now and then. Nothing major, though. Just regular kid stuff, throwing tantrums, refusing to eat my veggies, that kind of thing. His response seemed innocent enough, but something about his tone made me think he wasn't telling the whole story. How did the daycare handle discipline? I pressed gently. They were fair, I guess, Scott replied after a brief pause. Most of the time, it was just a scolding or a timeout. They'd make you sit in a corner for a few minutes, let you cool off, then you'd rejoin the group. That was the standard punishment. Most of the time? I repeated, sensing an opportunity to dig deeper. Scott's expression shifted, a subtle unease creeping into his features. Yeah, he said slowly. If you were lucky, that's all you got. The way he said it sent a chill through me. What do you mean by lucky? For a moment, Scott hesitated, his gaze dropping to the ground. When he finally spoke again, his voice was quieter, tinged with an emotion I couldn't quite place. The kids who got into serious trouble, they were sent to the gray door. The mention of the gray door set my mind racing. Margaret hadn't spoken of it directly, but it seemed to align with the ominous undertones of her account. I had to know more, but Scott looked visibly uncomfortable. Whatever he remembered about the gray door, it clearly wasn't something he wanted to talk about. Scott's mention of the gray door had shaken me, and I could see that even talking about it unsettled him. He shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his eyes darting around as if checking to see if anyone was listening. I waited, giving him the space to continue at his own pace. Whatever lay behind that door clearly weighed heavily on his mind. It was at the end of the hallway, Scott finally began, his voice low, almost a whisper. We weren't allowed to go near it. The teachers made that very clear. If you were caught even looking at it for too long, they'd scold you. But if you got into real trouble, they'd take you there. What kind of trouble? I asked, trying to keep my tone steady. Talking back, breaking something, refusing to listen, he said, shrugging lightly, though his unease was evident. Normal stuff, really. Stuff that doesn't seem like a big deal now. But back then, it felt like crossing some invisible line. I could see the memories stirring in his mind as he spoke. Did you ever see what was behind the door? I asked, leaning in slightly. Scott shook his head, his expression darkening. No. They made sure no one ever saw. The kids who were taken there, they'd come back different. Different? I echoed, feeling a chill run down my spine. He nodded slowly. Quieter. More obedient. Like something had been taken out of them. I don't know how to explain it. They wouldn't talk about what happened, and after a while, we all learned not to ask. The weight of his words hung heavy between us. I tried to imagine what could have happened behind that door to leave such an impression, but my mind kept coming up blank. Whatever it was, it had scarred the children deeply enough that even now, years later, Scott could barely bring himself to speak of it. Do you remember anyone being taken there? I asked cautiously. His face tightened. Yeah. A boy named Tommy. He was one of the loud ones. Always questioning the teachers, always pushing the rules. One day, he broke a glass jar during arts and crafts. I don't think he even meant to do it. It just slipped from his hands. But Miss Nancy, she was one of the strict ones, grabbed him by the arm and marched him straight to the gray door. What happened to him after that? Scott swallowed hard, his eyes distant. He was gone for hours. When he came back, he wouldn't look at anyone. He wouldn't talk either. Not even to his best friend. It was like he wasn't the same kid anymore. The image of a once vibrant child reduced to silence by whatever punishment he endured made my stomach turn. Scott's voice dropped even lower as he added, I'll never forget the look in his eyes. It was like he'd seen something he couldn't unsee. Something that broke him. Hearing this, I couldn't help but feel the gray door wasn't just a disciplinary tool. It was something far darker, something that had no place in a daycare. And yet, it was there, a grim secret hiding in plain sight. The atmosphere in the room grew heavy as Scott's words sank in. I could feel the tension, the weight of the mystery hanging in the air like a dark cloud. My mind was racing, trying to piece together what had happened behind that gray door. I had to know more. But Scott wasn't done yet. His gaze faltered for a moment, and he seemed to wrestle with the decision to continue. Scott, what exactly happened to Tommy? You're making it sound like it was more than just a punishment, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, unsure of whether I wanted the answer or not. Scott took a long, shaky breath. He looked out the window for a moment, as if gathering his courage. Tommy, he was never the same after that day. I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't just that he didn't talk. It was like he'd forgotten how to be a kid. I stared at him, my heart beating faster. What do you mean, forgotten? Scott shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his hands gripping the sides of the chair as though anchoring himself in the present. He stopped playing with the other kids. He stopped laughing, stopped being part of the group. I don't think he even remembered the games we used to play. And the other kids, they noticed, didn't they? Yeah, Scott replied, his voice growing softer, tinged with regret. We all noticed. But no one ever said anything. It felt wrong to talk about it. Like we'd crossed some unspoken line. It was easier to pretend like it hadn't happened. I couldn't understand why no one had spoken up. How could they just ignore what had happened to Tommy? The thought made me feel cold. But you saw it. You saw what happened to him. You must have known something wasn't right. Scott's face darkened, his eyes clouding with something that could only be described as guilt. We all saw it. But what could we do? We were just kids. We didn't have the power to change anything. And after a while, we were too scared to ask. We knew it wasn't just about Tommy. It was about all of us. About all of you? I repeated, not sure I understood. Yeah, Scott whispered. You see, the gray door wasn't just for punishing bad kids. It was a warning. A way of showing us that if we didn't follow the rules, we'd end up like Tommy. It wasn't just about teaching us discipline. It was about control. They wanted us to be afraid. Fear gripped me as I absorbed the full weight of his words. So they didn't just take Tommy to teach him a lesson? They changed him? Scott nodded slowly. It wasn't just him. There were others. Kids who got taken there, one by one, and they came back, different. We all knew something had happened behind that door, but no one dared to find out. Did any of them ever talk about it? I asked, almost afraid to hear the answer. Scott's eyes flickered with a distant memory. No. Not a single one. They'd come back and just shut down. It was like they couldn't remember anything that happened in there, or if they did, they couldn't speak of it. We all knew better than to ask. We all knew that whatever happened behind that door, it was something we weren't meant to understand. The weight of his words pressed down on me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being drawn into something far bigger than I had imagined. What kind of power could a daycare have over children to make them forget, to make them so obedient? And what was behind that door? You said they would come back and be quiet, obedient, I said, my voice trembling. Do you think it was something they did to them in there? Something physical? Scott's expression grew even darker. I don't know. But I've always wondered. No one was ever the same after they went behind that door. They became like robots. No emotion. No rebellion. Just empty. I shuddered at the thought. The idea of something so sinister hiding in a place that was supposed to be safe for children was almost too much to bear. I needed to know more. Do you think Tommy ever came back to his old self? Scott shook his head slowly. No. Not really. He tried, but it was like he couldn't. I remember once, a year later, he came up to me in the playground. He was looking at the other kids, trying to join in. But he couldn't. It was like something had been taken from him that he could never get back. The pain in Scott's voice was clear, and I could feel the weight of those lost years. Tommy had been robbed of his childhood, of his essence. And for what? To maintain control over a group of children who were already too young to understand what was happening to them. I don't think any of us ever really got over what we saw, Scott said, his voice barely a whisper. Even now, I can't forget the way Tommy looked after he came back. I can't forget that door. The room fell silent. The answer to the mystery I had been trying to unravel seemed to be right in front of me, yet it was more elusive than ever. Whatever had happened behind that gray door, whatever had been done to those children, had left an indelible mark on their lives. A mark that would never fade. I could feel the tension in the air as Scott's words echoed in my mind. Everything I thought I knew about that daycare, about the adults who ran it, was slipping through my fingers. The idea of a place where children were turned into shells of themselves, obedient and unfeeling, seemed impossible. Yet, everything Scott had said painted a picture of something far darker. The mystery of that gray door was no longer something distant, something I could dismiss. It was real, and it was terrifying. I leaned forward, my heart pounding in my chest. But Scott, if Tommy wasn't the only one, how many others were there? How many kids did this happen to? I asked, my voice shaky with the weight of what I was asking. Scott hesitated, his eyes darting around the room, as though he were searching for an answer that wouldn't hurt so much. He swallowed hard. I don't know. I was too young to really understand it back then. But I saw a few kids come and go, and every time they came back, it was the same. They were never the same. Never the same how? I pressed. What happened to them when they returned? Scott's face darkened, and he shifted in his chair uncomfortably, his fingers nervously tapping the armrest. They'd come back, and it was like they didn't even know us anymore. They didn't remember who their friends were. They didn't laugh. They didn't play. They didn't do anything. It was like a part of them had been taken away. The horror of it all was too much to process. So, they were turned into zombies? Just obedient little soldiers? I could hear the disbelief in my own voice, but Scott nodded slowly. Not zombies, but close. It was like they were programmed to be perfect. To follow orders. No questions asked. Scott said, his voice distant, as though the memories were pulling him back into the past. No tantrums, no fights, no mischief. They did what they were told, and they did it without thinking. But the worst part was, they didn't seem to care. They didn't seem to miss the things that made them human. I couldn't wrap my mind around it. Children, forced to lose everything that made them who they were, simply for the sake of obedience. But why, Scott? Why would they do that? Why would they turn innocent kids into robots? I asked, my voice trembling with the enormity of the question. Scott's gaze dropped to his hands, and for a moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, he exhaled slowly. I think it was control. The people running that daycare, they wanted power. They wanted to mold us, break us, so we wouldn't question authority. So we wouldn't question them. Heavy with regret. But there were times when the others, the ones who had been changed, they would come back from that room, and they were different. I didn't know it at the time, but I realize now that they were never really the same again. And what scared me the most was that, sometimes, I wondered if I would be next. I felt a chill run down my spine. The idea that Scott himself might have been one of those kids, that he might have been changed by whatever was behind that door, was terrifying. Did you ever try to stop it? Did anyone try to stop it? Scott shook his head slowly, his eyes distant. We were just kids. No one had the power to stop it. Even if we wanted to, we were too scared. The adults were too powerful. They controlled everything, the kids, the staff, the entire place. I remember the fear that would settle in every time someone went behind that door. No one spoke about it. No one ever asked questions. The silence between us was thick with the weight of his words. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of it all. A place designed to care for children, to nurture and protect them, had become a prison, a place where children's minds were erased, twisted, and bent to the will of those in charge. But why? What could they possibly want with a group of helpless kids? Scott, what did you see in that room? I asked again, my voice urgent. What was really going on there? He hesitated, his face drawn tight with emotion. I don't know everything, he said softly, almost to himself. But I remember hearing whispers, strange voices. Sometimes, I'd hear screams in the middle of the night. I tried to ignore them, to tell myself it was nothing. But deep down, I knew it wasn't just some bad dream. There was something dark happening behind that door. And it wasn't just the kids who went in. There were adults, too. People I didn't recognize. I think they were the ones in charge of the whole thing. I swallowed hard, trying to process the terrifying image that was starting to form in my mind. Adults, coming and going behind a locked door, children being taken and returned as empty shells. It was all so wrong, so unnatural. But there was one question that burned in my mind, one that I had to ask. Did you ever see anyone leave from behind that door? Someone who wasn't changed? Scott shook his head slowly, the sorrow in his eyes clear. No. The ones who went and came out different. Some of them didn't come out at all. They just disappeared. I don't know where they went, but I knew enough to understand that if you went behind that door, you weren't coming back the same. If you came back at all. A sense of helplessness washed over me. My thoughts were spinning, my chest tight with dread. If no one had ever tried to stop it, if the children were helpless in the face of such a monstrous system, what chance did anyone have now of uncovering the truth? How could I, as an adult, possibly understand the full scope of the horror Scott was describing? Scott's voice trembled as he spoke again. I wish I had done something. I wish I had spoken up. But we were just kids, Atif. We didn't have the words, the courage to fight back. And even if we did, we were too scared of what might happen if we tried. He paused for a moment, then added in a quieter voice, I think we all knew that if we fought back, we wouldn't be able to stop it. Not then, and not now. I clenched my fists, frustration rising within me. This was worse than I could have imagined. A place meant to care for children, to be a safe haven, had turned into a machine for erasing identities, turning them into obedient beings who did not question. Who could do such a thing to children? And why? Do you ever wonder, Scott, I said slowly, if anyone outside the daycare knew what was happening? If anyone knew the truth? Scott didn't answer right away. He stared ahead, his eyes unfocused, lost in thought. Finally, he spoke, his voice heavy. I don't think anyone knew. Or if they did, they never said anything. I remember the staff, they acted like everything was fine. Like everything was normal. But deep down, I think they knew what was happening behind that door, even if they didn't fully understand it. The thought of it made my stomach churn. Children, trapped in a nightmare, and no one, absolutely no one, was willing to speak up, to help. They had all been complicit, even if they didn't understand the full extent of the horror. And now, all these years later, I was learning about a secret that had been buried for so long. Would anyone else believe me? Would anyone care? Scott, I asked softly, do you think any of those kids ever got their lives back? Do you think any of them were ever able to escape what happened to them? He didn't answer immediately, but his silence spoke volumes. Some scars, no matter how hard you try, can never be healed. The damage had been done, and for many of those kids, life would never be the same again. I could feel a weight pressing on my chest as I took in Scott's words. The daycare, once a symbol of care and safety, was now a place that haunted his every thought. It had become clear to me that the memories he carried were not just painful, they were filled with a deep sense of betrayal. I tried to imagine what it must have been like, to be just a child, and yet feel the crushing burden of something so wrong happening all around you. What had happened to those children, to Scott? How had they survived? Or had they? Scott's face was pale, his eyes distant. It was as though he was living through it all over again, the memories flickering in his mind like old film. I could see the flicker of fear in his eyes, the unease in his voice as he recalled the days that had shaped him, had shaped all of them. He wasn't just talking about the past anymore, he was reliving it. And I couldn't stop the feeling that we were only scratching the surface of something much darker. Scott, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. What happened to the others? The ones who were taken behind the door? What happened to them? Were they ever able to get away from it? Scott looked at me, his gaze haunted. I don't know, he replied. Some of them left, or at least, they disappeared. Some were never the same, and a few just vanished. I never saw them again. He swallowed hard, his throat tightening. I don't think anyone ever escaped, Anif. The ones who went behind that door, there was no getting away from it. You couldn't escape something like that. It stays with you. It changes you. The thought of a child being taken, twisted into something unrecognizable, was unbearable. What kind of force could alter a child's very essence, leave them forever scarred? And what had happened to the children who disappeared without a trace? Where had they gone? Had they been taken somewhere even darker? Was it possible that Scott and the others had just been lucky enough to escape with their lives? There was one kid, Scott murmured, his voice barely audible now. One kid who came back, but he was different. He wasn't the same. He didn't speak much after he came back from that room. He just stared at everything like he didn't recognize it. And then, one day, he was gone. Just like that. No one knew what happened to him. It was like he disappeared into thin air. The chills running down my spine grew stronger as I tried to piece together what Scott was telling me. Children taken behind a locked door, altered, broken, or simply gone. And no one had ever questioned it. The adults had just kept quiet, and the children had been left to fend for themselves, trying to make sense of an unimaginable horror. What do you think they were doing to them? I asked, my voice trembling. What was behind that door? Why were they so different when they came out? Scott shook his head, the pain evident on his face. I don't know, Atif. I was just a kid. I didn't understand any of it. But I think they were being changed. Not just physically, but inside. Their minds, their thoughts, they were different after they came back. They weren't themselves anymore. He paused, his voice growing quieter. I think they were trying to break us, change us into something we weren't. Maybe they thought it was for the greater good. Or maybe they just didn't care. But I know one thing, they didn't do it for any good reason. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach as the weight of his words settled in. Something about that room, that gray door, had the power to strip away a person's very identity. It could turn children into something unrecognizable, something that wasn't quite human anymore. What kind of people could do that? What kind of twisted minds would allow such cruelty to happen in the name of care? Do you think? I hesitated, my thoughts clouded with uncertainty. Do you think there's still a chance to stop it? That maybe, somehow, we can still figure out what happened to all those kids? To stop whatever's behind that door? Scott's expression grew darker, and I could see the pain in his eyes as he considered the question. I don't know, Atif, he said softly. I wish I could say yes. But the thing is, I think it's too late. It's been years. Whatever was behind that door, whatever happened to us, it's all been covered up. No one would believe us. And even if they did, I don't think we could stop it now. I couldn't shake the feeling that Scott was right. Time had passed, and the daycare had long since been forgotten by most. The truth, if there was any left, was buried beneath layers of time, memory, and silence. But there was still a part of me that couldn't let go. The children, the ones who had been taken, there had to be a way to help them, to uncover what had happened to them. No matter how impossible it seemed. Do you ever wonder, I asked, my voice trembling, if there are others out there? Other kids who went through the same thing, who were changed by that room? Scott gave me a long, searching look, as though considering the possibility. Finally, he nodded. I think about it a lot. I don't think we were the only ones. There must be others. Some of them might not even remember what happened to them. Some of them might have been so changed that they don't even realize what they went through. But I know there's something out there. Something that's been hidden for so long. It felt as though a door had just been opened, a crack in the wall of secrecy. If there were others out there, if there were children who had gone through the same nightmare, then maybe, just maybe, there was still hope. Maybe there was still a chance to expose the truth, to bring justice to those who had suffered in silence for so long. Do you think we could find them? I asked, a sense of urgency creeping into my voice. The others, the ones who were affected by all of this. Could we get them to help us figure out what happened? Scott's face softened with a faint trace of hope, but the shadow of doubt still lingered in his eyes. Maybe. But I don't know if we'll ever be able to get them to talk. Some of them might not even know what happened to them. Some of them might not even remember what was behind that door. But if we can find them, if we can make them remember, maybe we can finally get the answers we've been looking for. I felt a flicker of determination spark within me. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy. It would be full of darkness, uncertainty, and fear. But if there was even the slightest chance of uncovering the truth, of stopping whatever had started all those years ago, I knew I had to try. For the children who were taken. For the ones who were left behind. And for Scott, whose memories were still shackled by the horrors of that gray door. As we sat in silence, the weight of the conversation hung in the air between us, heavy and suffocating. I could see Scott's eyes flickering, the thoughts racing behind them, but it was clear he didn't have all the answers. He wanted to help, but part of him had already given up, resigned to the idea that the past was just too far gone to fix. And I couldn't blame him for feeling that. Wait. After everything that had happened, who could still believe that something good could come of it? But I couldn't let go. I couldn't accept the idea that we were powerless in the face of such an unspeakable evil. The more Scott spoke, the more I felt the fire inside me grow. This wasn't just about what had happened to the children all those years ago. It was about the future, about preventing this from happening again, about making sure no more children would be caught in a web of horror that had trapped Scott and so many others. There had to be a way to stop it. There had to be a way to uncover the truth. "Scott," I said quietly, my voice shaking with determination. "We can't just let this go. We can't ignore what happened. We need to find out what's behind that door, what they were doing, and who's still out there. If we don't, then we're just as guilty as those who let it happen." He looked at me then, really looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and disbelief. He hadn't expected me to say something like that, to make a stand like I was. "Atif," he started slowly, his voice a mix of caution and frustration, "this isn't something you can just fix. This isn't something you can just uncover and expect everything to be okay. This thing, whatever it is, it's bigger than us. It's bigger than anything we could ever imagine." "I know," I replied, my voice firm. "But that doesn't mean we should just give up. We can't let this continue, not when we know the truth is out there. There are others who need to know. There are kids who are still in danger, and we can't just sit back and pretend it doesn't matter." Scott's eyes softened, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of the person he used to be, the person who still cared, who still believed that right and wrong meant something. But it was fleeting. The reality of what had happened to him, to all of them, was too much for him to hold on to for long. "I don't know if I can do this, Atif," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I can go back to that place, to that time. I don't know if I can face it all again." I reached out, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to do it alone. I'm here. We'll figure this out together." He looked down at my hand for a moment, as though considering it. The silence stretched out between us, the weight of everything unsaid hanging in the air. Finally, he sighed, a deep, exhausted breath that seemed to carry the weight of years of torment. "I don't know if we'll be able to fix it. But maybe, just maybe, we can find some answers." The words were like a spark of hope in the darkness, but even as they left his lips, I could sense his doubt. This wasn't going to be easy. It wasn't going to be a simple matter of uncovering a few old secrets and walking away. Whatever we were about to uncover, it would be dark and dangerous. And we had no idea what kind of forces we were up against. "I don't think we have a choice anymore," I said quietly. "We can't keep living like this, carrying these shadows with us. We owe it to the others, to everyone who went through this, to find the truth. Even if it costs us everything." Scott nodded slowly, as if weighing the gravity of what I was saying. He had been carrying this burden for so long that it had become part of him, but now, for the first time, I could see a faint glimmer of resolve. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Enough to keep going, at least for now. "I'll help you, Atif," he said, his voice steady but tinged with the exhaustion of a man who had been fighting ghosts for too long. "But we need to be careful. This isn't something we can just walk into without knowing what we're dealing with. There's a lot more to this than you realize. A lot more people involved." I nodded. "I know. But we have to try. We owe it to those kids. We owe it to ourselves." We sat there for a long time, the room filled with nothing but the sound of our breathing, both of us lost in our own thoughts. The weight of what we were about to do was already pressing down on us, but I knew, deep down, that this was the only way forward. We had to face the darkness, no matter how terrifying it was, because if we didn't, it would continue to haunt us, haunt everyone, forever. "Let's start with the daycare," I said finally, breaking the silence. "We need to go back there. See what we can find. Maybe there's something we missed the first time. Something that can give us a clue about what really happened." Scott looked at me, his eyes full of the pain and uncertainty that had followed him for so long. "You're sure about this?" he asked, his voice cracking with the weight of his past. I nodded without hesitation. "I'm sure." The decision had been made. We were going back to that place, to the heart of the nightmare, and we were going to find out what had happened to all those children. We were going to uncover the truth, no matter what it took. The next morning, we found ourselves standing outside the daycare, staring at the faded sign that hung crookedly above the entrance. Time had not been kind to this place. The windows were cracked, the once bright paint now chipped and peeling. It was hard to believe that just a few years ago, this had been a place of laughter, a sanctuary for children. Now, it was nothing more than a decaying shell of what it had once been, a stark reminder of the dark secrets buried within its walls. Scott was unusually quiet as we approached the front door. I could tell he was having second thoughts, but he didn't voice them. There was a look of sheer determination in his eyes, mixed with a deep sadness that I couldn't quite understand. I wanted to reassure him, to tell him that everything would be okay, but I knew better. This was far from over, and we were walking into the lion's den. "We need to find the key," I said, breaking the silence. I looked around, trying to spot any signs of life, but there was no one in sight. The street was eerily empty, as if the whole neighborhood had decided to turn a blind eye to the horrors that had once taken place here. Scott nodded, pulling a set of keys from his pocket. He had kept them all these years, a grim reminder of the responsibility he had carried since that night. It felt like a lifetime ago, but I knew it was still fresh in his mind, as though the memories were still clawing at him, refusing to let go. "I can't believe we're doing this," Scott muttered under his breath, his fingers trembling as he slid the key into the lock. "It's the only way," I replied quietly, watching as the door creaked open. The stale air inside hit us immediately, the musty scent of decay mixing with the faint smell of something else, something darker. I stepped inside, feeling the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. The silence was deafening, the kind that made your skin crawl. The inside of the daycare was just as I remembered it, dark, claustrophobic, and oppressive. The walls, once brightly painted with cheerful murals, were now faded and covered in grime. The toys that once filled the play area were broken and scattered across the floor. It was as if time had stood still in this place, waiting for someone to come and uncover the truth. "Where do we start?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. It felt wrong to speak in here, as if the walls themselves were listening, waiting for the wrong words to be spoken. Scott didn't answer immediately. He just stood there, frozen in place, as though the memories of his time here were flooding back. His face was pale, and I could see the sweat starting to form on his brow. This wasn't just about uncovering the past anymore. It was about confronting the ghosts that had haunted him for so long. "Let's check the office," he said finally, his voice hoarse. He led the way down the narrow hallway, his steps slow and cautious. We passed the rooms where the children had once played, their laughter now replaced by an unsettling silence. When we reached the office, Scott hesitated before pushing the door open. The room was small, cramped with old filing cabinets and paperwork that had long since yellowed with age. There were no personal touches, no photos or mementos. Just cold, sterile furniture that seemed to belong in a different time. I watched as Scott moved to the desk, his hands shaking as he rifled through the drawers. He stopped suddenly, his face draining of color as he pulled something out. It was an old, worn notebook, the cover frayed and damaged, but the pages inside were intact. This is it," Scott whispered, holding the notebook up to me. His voice trembled, and for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. This wasn't just a simple diary or record book. It was something far more sinister. I took the notebook from him, my heart pounding in my chest. The pages were filled with notes, but they weren't what I had expected. These weren't just records of children or daily routines. These were detailed notes about something far darker. There were references to certain children, children who had disappeared, children who had been experimented on. It was all there, in black and white. "Oh my God," I muttered, reading through the pages. "Scott, this is everything. This is the proof we need." Scott didn't say anything. He just stood there, staring at the floor, his face a mask of anguish. He had known about this, had seen some of it firsthand, but reading it all again, seeing the full scope of the horrors that had taken place here, was too much for him to bear. I closed the notebook, my hands shaking. "We have to take this to the authorities," I said, my voice firm. We can't let this go. We have to make sure those responsible are brought to justice. Scott shook his head, his face filled with doubt. Do you really think the authorities will believe us? Do you think they'll do anything about it? This goes way beyond just a daycare. There are people involved, powerful people. They've covered this up for years. We're not going to get justice, Atif. Not like this. But we can't give up, I insisted. We have to try. For the kids. For the families. For everyone who's been affected by this. Scott looked at me, his eyes filled with sadness and resignation. I wish I could believe that, he said softly. But I don't know if we're ready for what's coming next. I didn't have an answer for him. I could feel the weight of everything pressing down on me, the reality of what we were facing settling in. This was bigger than both of us. But I knew one thing for sure, we had to expose the truth, no matter the cost. The fight wasn't over, it was just beginning. And as we stood there, in the darkness of that forsaken daycare, I realized that there was no going back. The truth had been uncovered, and now there was no escaping the consequences. Whatever lay ahead, we had already crossed the point of no return.